Poprosím všichni dovnitř. Posadit, utišit. Prosím. Srdečně vás vítám v našem úplně posledním bloku. Hned teď vás upozorním na to, že poslední blok bude celý v angličtině, takže pokud byste chtěli, tak si vemte vzadu sluchátka a bude vám do sluchátek překládáno. Vůbec se neostýchejte, nebojte, tamhle úžasní pomocníci vám dají sluchátka, případně lidé, kteří se koukají online, určitě pomůže Google Translator nebo jakákoliv další služba, bude-li to zapotřebí. Znova připomínám, že můžete posílat vaše dotazy na Slido, stačí dát slido.com/Brno 2028. Pokud nám chcete udělat radost, můžete na tento poslední blok posílat otázky rovnou v angličtině. Není to nutnost, je to pro nás taková příjemnost, když to uděláte. Tak a my tady máme zahraniční hosty, na které už jste dlouho čekali. Hnedka na úvod řeknu, že skončíme prezentací online, kterou nám zaslala Světlana z Plovdivu, který byl evropským hlavním městem kultury v roce 2019. No a dále budeme pokračovat. Let's switch into English already. Here we go with Simona. She is from Kaunas, and that's the city, culture city for 2022. Our advisor, Nadia. Next to her is Marianne from Nitra. They are actually waiting if their city will be selected for the culture city. And last but not least, Neil, here is advisor as well. So just enjoy it. We've got awesome group here and finish this awesome day with these awesome guys. So it's yours.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Simona from Kaunas, European Capital of Culture. And I'm really, really happy to be here and to see how dynamic and I would say you have a lot of discussions I see, you have a lot of things to talk, you have a lot of opinions. That means the city is alive and it goes to a good way. So congrats for that. And yeah, next year, Kaunas in Lithuania, Litva, will be European Capital of Culture. And actually, we are really excited because we were preparing for 7 years. But of course, we are nervous because we don't know how it will go. Because a lot of things depends on the communities of Kaunas and Kaunas district. So, and when you work with communities, everything is experiment. But of course, we have our book. I will show our program book, and I will show it if you want to see it, what will be in next year. And I will present you shortly why you should come to Kaunas next year. Maybe some of you know that Aš, Novi Sad, and Kaunas, free capital of cultures, will be next year. And we have we are in the middle, and actually we are quite similar as you, as Brno, because we have kind of similar number of citizens. We have two rivers in the middle of the city, and I like many things, because when I read on Wikipedia about Brno, I thought it's about Kaunas, so so we have a lot of similarities, I think. And as I mentioned, Kaunas and Kaunas district will be capital of culture. So in district we have 90,000 people. And yeah, our main goal is to change people mentality, not to think only about past, but think about the future, to think that we believe in European values, that we believe in that we are diverse, that we have different opinions, that we can we do co-creation and many other things. And and this project is, as I mentioned, for Kaunas district and Kaunas city. And we mostly working with just simply people. We're inviting them to various courses, to various events. Of course, we invite communities because we had kind of a lack of communities in Kaunas before we got this title, European Capital of Culture. And one of our main goals is that our organizations would collaborate. They wouldn't fight. They would be together and they would create projects together. And this project is sponsored by municipalities of Kaunas city, Kaunas district, and our government, and of course some funds from Europe. And we started in 2015. Then in 2017 we received the title, and next year we'll have culmination and legacy. I would like to talk about legacy, but maybe later because I think I don't have a lot of time here. And some numbers, what we did from 17 to 20. So you can see it. I think I don't need to tell it. And we are 8 programs, and these programs were created according to our political and cultural strategy. And everything in BitBook was created for that. Our team of BitBook met, and they were thinking which are the gaps for the city in our strategy. So they created these eight programs that our strategy would be much more stronger, and the city would really lead to the change. So shortly about our programs. So we're really proud of our modernism architecture, and this program builds a modernism community of people who lives in modernism buildings. Memory Office collects our city stories because we really believe in storytelling. We believe in people who has a lot of memory inside, but they don't tell it. So this program is for that. Designing happiness is more for disabled people to reach cultural institutions because we really have a big problem in Kaunas in this sphere. And also we organize Day of Happiness festival, so when every organization and communities joins it and celebrates just happiness and openness. Emerging Kaunas is youth program, and there is already prepared 100 youth curators who are preparing next year festival for youth. So youth curators preparing youth festival. So this is a program to build a strong young people community who already know what is culture and that culture is needed for the city. Contemporary neighborhoods is for our district to build stronger communities, that they would collaborate together, that all organizations would collaborate, and they would be much, much stronger. Cultural partnerships program. So this is one of our mains, as I mentioned. We have already 80 other cultural institutions who creates our program. So we are in the team, we are already 80 people. but we really need cultural institutions help us because we have a really huge program and we need the help to build the culture of capital together because we believe that everyone has to be invited and they has to be inside. They don't need to compete. And with the people, it's a community program in the city. So also we are organizing various workshops for neighborhoods, also community events, like huge ones in the city center. We invite everyone to come and celebrate. So it's more for cultural decentralization that culture would come in Kaunas neighborhoods. And Mythical Beasts program, it's more to create a story about Kaunas and to just to play, because sometimes we pretend a lot of that we are very serious, but these creative things in the project makes it special, and that's why. A book of mythical beast is created, and the mythical beast now is like a symbol of our project. And of course, volunteer program, every ECOG has it. So yeah, we organizing various trainings for volunteers and make them together and preparing for 2022 when in opening event we will need 1,000 volunteers, so we are already preparing for this huge thing for the city. And yeah, what I mentioned, I'm really proud of Kaunas that they choose to build the capacities of the people. That they didn't put all the money in the end of this title year. That we had really strong preparation for 2022 year, and now our communities, our people, our volunteers, and the cultural organizations are much stronger because they already together. They are preparing together for this 2022 year. And actually, I believe that this is the biggest legacy of our project. So yeah, we invite you to Kaunas and what to expect. We'll have 3 main events next year. So first one will happen in 2022 of January. It's an opening event. Then on 2022 of May, we'll have middle event. We usually celebrate our city's birthday in this time, so that's why we have this event. And it will be about the rivers, so I think it would be interesting for you. And the conclusion, the final event, will be in 25-28 of November. And some more main events. If you're interested to mark or take a picture when you have to come to Kaunas, I won't tell about every event. They are all interesting. They are all like really huge because next year, as I say, all our events will be 5 times bigger, and it will be really huge and important for the city. So yeah, if you have any questions, I'm here, and you can write me an email or call. Yeah,
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. But if you don't want to send an email, you've got the best opportunity to ask Simona any question. If you are interested in anything, just ask. Nope? Okay, so yeah, you can come actually here, please. But also, I will ask Marianne if we can start and tell something about Nitra and how... Yeah, of course, you can do it there or you can stand on stage, it's up to you.
Yeah. Hi, my name is Marian. I'm the project manager of Nitro's candidacy for ECOC 2026. We're currently in the final round along with 2 other final cities. So we just handed in our final bid book last week. Yeah, we've been working on it since March 2020. So anyone saying that it's not enough time to write a bid book for Brno 2028, just come to me after the panel. Yeah, it's all about time management and dedication, I guess, and some crazy people. Yeah, so we started in March 2020. I've been working on the project since then. I don't really. Should I talk about the concept or the program or?
Just talk anybody what is relevant for the topic.
Okay. So there were 8 cities in our competition, so twice as many as in Czech Republic. Which is a lot. And and we started our process the same way as something similar that this is, I guess. So there were meetings of like 70 or 80 people, people from the culture sector, activists, people from universities, anyone interested in the project, could come in and say hi and, speak their mind. Of course, it was somehow like curated, the whole thing. And then we decided on the concept in June, when I think these guys joined the whole thing. So we have the same consultants as you do. And then once we decided on the concept and the 3 program lines, which in Nitra are revolving around 3 themes, and those are identity, dialogue, and sustainability. Then we started writing, and in about 3 or 4 months, we wrote the whole thing. I think that when you do your groundwork and spend a lot of time talking to people and a lot of time writing, it's manageable. Yeah.
Awesome. So how do you feel right now? Do you think that you can actually win it, or what are your expectations?
I don't really know. Like it's a pretty special situation because in Slovakia we all know each other, like pretty closely. Not like all the people, but all the teams. Like for example, people in Trenčín, which is our competitor, the leader of their team, she's my friend. And we just went to the cinema last Friday, and so it's a weird thing, and we have 5 weeks ahead, and I feel like my life ends in 5 weeks.
No way!
Like that's I'm not seeing my
it actually
life
will start.
after that. Yeah, well, I hope so. So we have a month till the part of the international jury comes to Nitra for a visit, and then we have a Q&A and presentation. And the day after that, it's going to be decided.
So we definitely wish you the best of luck.
Thank you.
You will do it.
Yeah.
So thanks a lot for sharing. Any question? Anything you want to ask? They are our brothers and sisters, so you can be really open-minded. Nothing. Okay. So we've got also, thank you one more time, and we've got also Nadia and Neil here. They are from the mystery group of advisors. So if you can please just shortly introduce yourself and say something about yourself and what is your role and where are you actually from and why do you do this job, etc.
That's a lot of questions. Okay, so, well, I'm Nadia. I come from Germany.
Herzlich willkommen.
Dankeschön. I am in Brno for the very first time, so my impressions are very fresh. What do? I have, as a background, I was in Marian's shoes and I was in Simona's shoes, but a very long time ago with my own city in Germany, in Essen. In 2010, we were European Capital of Culture, the whole region, Ruhr area. And so I know what you are going through, I know what these guys have been through. It is a very exciting process. And it requires all of you to participate in this. I think here in Brno, we're just getting started. The team is brand new. You have seen them today. I think they are really onto something because they are also, starting the machine of bidding. And at the end, it is like Marian said, it takes a bunch of dedicated people. It takes the cultural people of the city to bring in their power, actually, because as Simona said in her presentation, it is a European capital of culture is undoable, impossible without all of you and all of the city. Am I right or am I right? So I really encourage all of you not to think too negatively, not to think, oh, I've not been asked yet, I've not been involved yet. There is very much time, not for the bidding phase perhaps, but as Simona said, when you win the title, the next day the actual work starts. And that's where all of you are really asked to bring in all of your power. And I digressed quite a lot from your questions.
No.
So yes, I'm very excited to work with Brno. So after I did the project of European Capital of Culture in the Ruhr area in Essen, 2010, in 2011 I started trying to share this very special knowledge that you acquire. I think Neil and also Simona can agree with this very special skill set that you acquire through doing a European Capital of Culture, started sharing this with candidates like your city. So far I've worked with around 24 candidate cities since 2011, so a lot of experience, but of course I can tell you there is no guarantee. I don't know if you will win or not, so please don't ask. and beyond that, yes, I am going to hand over to my colleague.
Thank you very much, Nadia, for your sharing. So Neil.
Yes, hi, I'm Neil from Liverpool in the UK, still full of European values despite everything. But I was involved in Liverpool's European Capital of Culture in 2008, so that's 20 years from when Brno might be European Capital of Culture in 2028. And it really transformed the reputation of Liverpool and the way the city works. And I was just talking to people in the break, it's difficult to think, I'm sure Liverpool would have still been great and still winning football championships, and the Beatles would have still been from Liverpool, but the city would not feel as good as it does now had we not gone through that European Capital of Culture process. And I guess although many of you will be asking yourselves, why are we spending all this money, why are we entering this competition, I think for the Czech Republic it would have been a bit more odd if there was a competition and Brno wasn't involved, because like Nadia, it's my first time here, but I've heard of Brno, and I've heard of it in the context of a really exciting and interesting cultural city, and that's what can form the basis of a really good bid, whether you win or not. So I think it's great that you're in the competition, and as Nadia says, it's not easy to do one of these things. This is Nietzsche's bid book. It's not easy, but it's also very possible to do it very well in the time scale that you've got. So as Nadia says, you guys have really got to get involved and get behind the team. Because one of the things, I think a couple of things that happened in Liverpool that are kind of relevant to your situation, and is that the bid that we put in was kind of built around the bedrock of the cultural institutions in the city. And Liverpool was known for football and the Beatles, but it wasn't known for the strength of its cultural infrastructure, which is really excellent. But it's much better still after having been a very key part of European Capital of Culture. The Tate Liverpool, for example, the quality of exhibitions it now puts on over 10 years later is completely, a lot better than it was before, good though it was, and so on and so forth. So the international profile of the cultural institutions and of the independent cultural sector will flourish and grow if you get involved in the European Capital of Culture. And Simona's great presentation and I'm very excited to go to Kaunas next year. Also, she said, everyone does a volunteer program, of course, but of course they didn't, because Liverpool, it wasn't the very first, but it was the first to do a major community volunteer program, which actually my team developed and led. And now everyone does do one. And that's an incredible legacy from what we did in Liverpool, because the involvement of local people, volunteers who get involved and behind the city and make friends and so on, is also something that I'm very kind of proud and excited to have been part of. And particularly the way that the communities are also involved in the way that you described here. And I know Marion's doing, and here in Brno with your 28 communities as well, there's thoughts about getting them involved. So I think, it's definitely kind of changed our city for the better. And, it's been a privilege to work with Nadia and our other colleague Hans to work with these fantastic cities like these guys and like you. Because I think the one thing I would say is it's one of the most exciting change management processes for a city, because instead of building things, you're building from the bottom up and involving people. And that's probably the most energizing and exciting thing about the whole process. And I'm sure you guys will do an amazing job here in Brno.
Thanks a lot, Neil. It's awesome to hear this Harry Potter English, always.
I've actually got Liverpool English, really, but it isn't the best. But I'm glad it doesn't show in the Czech Republic.
It's really lovely, actually. Really lovely. So, any questions? Anything you want to ask our advisors or to our team? Anything? Okay, so maybe I will just make up some questions. Let's see. So I will ask actually Simona, and I'm so sorry, this is so awkward, Marion. How many people did participate in the preparation process, if you can remember, including the team, organization, participant in public research, advisors as well, etc.? How many people were involved, actually?
Actually, I was not in this first team, our bidding team, but as I know, we were 8 curators, something like this, who has these, which I presented you, main programs, who created it. And of course, we did the research in the city, but I'm not also really sure how many people reacted to it. But I saw the results that it was like a lot, but I would say 400. But I don't want to lie. But what I would like to add, I don't know how Brno will go. But in Kaunas, the new NGO was created. It was established by the municipality. So these 8 people were like just activists who believed in the city. I think like you do too. So yeah, and of course we had meetings with our, let's say, strongest and biggest cultural organizations. We had discussions with them. So my answer would be like this.
Awesome, thank you very much.
Well, you have to realize that when we did the whole first round, it was COVID all around. But it actually helped us a bit, I guess, because we could meet with more people through Zoom, and we could meet, I think, in much bigger number, and to involve region much more tightly than that it was now if we weren't locked at homes. But the core team right now is 5 people full-time, 10 people part-time. It was a little bit less last year. And then what we did, what we set up last year were these working groups. So we have 8 sector working groups. So there was one for architecture, urbanism, there was one for theater, one for music, and et cetera, et cetera. And so these were people from those sectors, from the city and the region, and all these groups were led by the people, by the members of the core team. So we were basically the connecting tissue of them all. And they were meeting on weekly or bi-weekly basis through Zoom, and it was perfect, because at first, I don't know, 3 or 4 meetings, they were all just getting the steam off, like what their problems are, and then we actually started working. But you know, through participation like this, I think it was really, really, really good, and the project would have been as good as it is now. And we, of course, we did surveys. I remember that the main one we did, it had 1,234 applicants, which is easy to remember. Yeah, and Neil put a comment in it next to it in our, when we were writing the bid book, if it's a real number. Yes, it is. Yeah. Yeah. So we and then of course we were meeting with the public and asking for their opinion. But once again, when the second wave hit and we went to the second round of the competition, we did this participatory meetings through Zoom again, so like open Zoom calls, and we were super surprised by how many people joined, for how long they actually stayed. You know, so for example, there were like 70 people on a Zoom call for 2 hours talking about about the identity of the city.
Wow.
Is the city green enough? About the community life, etc., etc. So we had those bi-weekly again. So you can work around everything, even pandemic, and so yeah. So there were like 15 people in the core team, 80 people in the working groups, and in the bid book, I think we have around 200 confirmed partners from Slovakia and 244 international partners confirmed from 45 countries.
That's actually a number.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot for sharing. I'm going to ask Nadia and Neil, you actually have to work all the time with different cultures. So how is it actually for you? You know, you have to have really big empathy, and there must be some struggles, you know, because the cultures are really different. So how is it for you? Like you give them advices, and then can be just like, oh, come, I will not listen that, or they just follow every of your words, or how it looks like. How is it for you?
Well, if they don't listen to us, of course they will lose. No,
That's the
just
rule.
kidding. Well, it takes a bit of intercultural competences. That's true. I have to say, I'm from an Italian background, but grew up in Germany, so my sense of punctuality is different than a Bulgarian's sense of punctuality. So, but or the way that people work, you know, some are very disciplined. Some teams are totally disciplined in certain countries, and others, you think you really start having nightmares because they are not getting on with their work, but they do everything at the last moment, and everything turns out fine. So yes, in this respect, you have to a little bit try to be flexible, and but you're right. It's also an exciting challenge for us to open up to the teams we work with, and I think I can speak for my colleague Neil and also for Hans, who's taking the modest back seat today.
Another advisor.
But I think we can say this, that we try to approach the teams in a way that we make them come to us, basically. I mean, we don't see ourselves as advisors who come in and say, you should do this or you should not do that, you know. It's more of a teamwork to understand, to get the feel for the city, the feel for the mentality, the feel for what is maybe a hidden thing for the team itself, you know. I don't know, things you never talk about, and it's like an agreement in your country or your city that you don't openly talk about certain things, but then someone from the outside comes in and may give you a little nudge into this direction, and that's how I see myself, you know, being the nudger to get people to think about certain things. So that, or maybe discover what they were always thinking about but never wanted to.
Thank you, Nadia.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly building on that, and it's a real privilege, as I said before, to come into different cities and to help people tell their story in a slightly different way, to answer the crazy questions they ask you in this bid book, but to do it in a way that almost becomes a really great blueprint for change. Funny enough, in the presentation from Simona, some of the ideas that we work with the team of Kaunas, to see those being realized so well, what would it be, 7 years after working with them, is fantastic, and it's such a learning experience for us. But I think what we've got good at, because Nadia and I both help a little bit with the writing and the helping the team put their ideas across, is the ability to help people like you tell your story in a way that appeals to a European audience, which is what this jury, the committee, as you were calling it, who are going to make the decision, does. And in some ways, it's a way of helping you guys open your eyes to the strengths of the city that you have, because the danger is, and I've done it myself in Liverpool, you come around a room and the usual suspects have the usual moans about the city doesn't understand us, doesn't involve us enough, and so on, and it's so difficult, and all those other candidates. And actually, you have a great story here in this city. You know that, really, and you're very proud of it, and it's the ability to work with you and bring that out, and we learn so much as part of that process, really. So.
Yeah, but what is on my mind is actually that you have to, the relationship should be full of trust. But you are actually living in Germany, in UK, and how do you build the trust? It must be all the time, the team on call, or when do you actually see each other? Do you visit the city? And they should listen to you and following your advices if they think they are right. So,
well, in terms of and especially as Marion was saying, we always used to do things with Skype. Do you remember Skype, actually? But, before Zoom and Teams and everything, we still used to do that. So we'd have a combination of what we're doing here, which is an introductory visit to understand, see the people live and so on. But to help build the bid book and to tell that story with a combination of emails, Skypes, and a series of visits across the way. But I think the other most exciting thing about this process is that people like you, people who are in this room, are here because you love your jobs, you love the culture, however you define culture of the city, and you love the place you work in, and you want to make it even better. And I think that's the thing that keeps us going all the time, because working with people like these guys who are talented, passionate, keen about the city, and the trust almost happens automatically, really. Sometimes, as Nadia says, Southern European timekeeping, it can be a bit tricky sometimes. But overall, the trust seems to develop naturally, because we both want the same thing. And so it's kind of a very special and unusual thing that we've been able to develop, which is why we keep going, really.
Okay, thanks a lot, Nadia. Anything you want to add? No? So maybe if we were taking from another perspective, how was it for you when actually the advisor member came to your team?
We spent so much time together that I don't really remember those first steps. What I remember is that when I joined the project at the beginning, and there was pandemic all around, because before that we wanted to visit, of course, several of the cities that were ECOX before. So we decided that we're gonna, because I was reading a bunch of bid books, this one, of course, from Kaunas, the one from Tartu, one from Veszprém or even Pilsen. So we did Zoom calls with the people from those teams. And suddenly there were 3 names that started popping up. So I texted, I think it was Neil. I sent an email to Neil if they're consulting any Slovak candidate. They said no. We had a Zoom call and we started working with them. And because we were so clueless, we needed someone, to nudge us in the right direction, to tell us okay, this should be your first step. For example, we were so undecisive about the concept, and we knew that the people in the culture sector in in Nitra were like so super stubborn, you know, and everyone had their own idea what it should be. That we used the guys as the, you know, like let them decide, and it's not going to be on our hands. So yeah, so we had like several options, and of course discussed it with them, and then they came to the city, and it was a really great visit. So yeah, but I completely agree with Neil that we both had the same goal. Like we knew that we wanted to tell our story to the Europe, and they were there to help us tell it. So yeah.
Thank you very much, Marianne. Simona?
As I mentioned, I was not in the bidding team, but I can say that everything went good because everything went good right now. So, so I'm almost sure that their job was perfect, because now our team is really strong, and we can already see how our city is changing. We're always saying that we see how Vilnius, our capital, is jealous for us sometimes. That how culture of Kaunas grows, and it's really like you cannot see that it really seeable. So yeah.
And how do you actually find your advisors? How do you search for them? Where we can find you?
Well, yeah. As I said, you know, we were told by the other cities that you should have. I don't know why, but we had calls with Veszprém, with Kaunas, and with Tartu, and all those three cities worked with the guys. So
Yeah, but you choose actually some specific
Yeah.
people. So is there any process actually that you've got, let's say, 10 calls with different advisors, and then you will decide, or for the first time you see someone and it's a match actually, or, and from the different perspective as well, please, if you can describe this process.
No, you were first that we approached.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a niche market, this, because so there are people around, several people who've worked. In fact, some of the guys that worked in Pilsen, I think, may well be advising some of the other cities. But you know, and there are a number of people around who've advised people. We've probably got the strongest track record by quite a long way in recent years. But that doesn't mean that other people aren't really good at it. But because it's such a niche market, I suppose you need people who understand the bidding process, what these questions actually mean. You need to have people, maybe, which we've all done, been involved actually in a capital of culture year. So as well as knowing what the bid needs to do, what you need to do once you've won, because that transition's quite difficult and so on. So there are a relatively small number of people, and it depends on the city's procurement process. You know, most have to do some sort of public procurement thing that we have to comply with, which we I think we've done for all of our candidates, and we've been lucky enough to win those competitions and work with the cities concerned.
Awesome, thanks a lot. Nadia, anything you want to add to this process?
I just would like to say that there's the advice, of course, but there are so many elements to bidding. So if the team is passionate, if the city stands behind the bidding, if also people from the cultural field, but also the citizens start buying into the idea, that's where the real groove starts. So it starts with a little spark of trust maybe between us and the team, but then it has to spread, you know, because, yeah, that's not the only thing.
Okay, thank you. So question for all of you. If you can remember any moment or memory experience, what actually happened to you, and you will never forget, what actually really surprised you, or maybe disappointed you, or maybe made you really happy, if you can remember anything.
I can answer to this question because I know how our director would say. When the bidding finished and when we got this title, you have to be prepared for that and be strong, because then you are alone. So she was really surprised that she believed that, oh, everyone with us, and we will do a culture of capital. But when we won, then you are alone with your team, of course, but the city just waits for you when you will do everything further. So that was a surprise to her after winning.
I think it was all those moments, when the naysayers in the city suddenly became, yes-sayers. Like when I saw that change, like people who were sort of like against the project, or they were like that, like a bit negative, and then after an explanation and after like working with them, you suddenly saw a change, and they were the ones helping you. So all those tiny moments, they were probably the best in the whole process.
Nice, thank you.
I suppose for me, I didn't actually work on the candidacy for Liverpool because it was a long time ago. But I was, just living in the city and very keen that the city should win, and we weren't the favourites. But I remember being stuck in a traffic jam in the car on my way into work, and on the radio, the national radio, they announced that Liverpool was European Capital of Culture, and I thought, this is fantastic for 3 reasons. One, it'll be great for the city. Two, I had
I'm
two...
sorry, just put your microphone closer.
Sorry, one, it would be great for the city, which it was. The second thing, I had 2 very young daughters at the time, and I thought it would be great for my kids to be growing up through this. And it was one of them's a fashion designer now, and the other works in media advertising and stuff. And I definitely think they've pursued creative careers because they were part of this flourishing growth of creativity. And I suppose the third thing I thought was, I might get a nice new job out of this. And I did get a job on the team, and I'm still working on European Capital of Culture. So all of my wishes came true, I'd say.
Nice.
I had, before, when we were bidding in Essen, Ruhr, I had a folder, like some kind of, a folder for a paper. And I had written on it the day after, because it was the stuff that I was collecting for the day after this decision of the jury, because you didn't know what would happen. Would you win or would you lose? So I collected everything that I could somehow postpone or that was not ripe yet into this folder. And I remember every time I put something into this folder, it was like Marian said at the beginning, I could not picture my life after this day, because for I think it was 3 years in my case, we were all the team was so focused on this bidding phase that we couldn't even imagine what we would do or think the day after this decision. So the moment when the jury announced it is Essen, then it was, of course, all of this somehow exploded in my head. So
Thanks to all of you for sharing. Regarding the COVID topic, so how do you think will COVID pandemic influence future eco? Do you see somehow the future, or what do you think? Who wants to speak? Jessica.
COVID-19, I think, already did a lot to ECOX, but I couldn't say that I'm happy for this, but COVID-19 did some changes in our program, which are really creative ones, which we wouldn't be created if it wouldn't happen.
Can you give maybe an example?
Like examples, when COVID-19 started and then all the pandemics and people had to be at home, we started to do concerts, performances, like artistic things in their yards. So they could look at through balconies and then to wave to their neighbors. And yeah, and actually this we're going to start in 2022 because we saw how this was strong for the communities who never had performers or any cultural thing in their yard. So this is only one of the examples, but I think the strongest project of us. Yeah, and what else? I think COVID-19 now helps us to plan more and plan better, because usually we didn't have such plans like F hash and all these. And now when we organizing events and everything, we already have a lot of plans. And this is good, because we all have to work like this, I think, because then nothing will happen, like nothing can stop your project when you have more plans. So I think pandemic helped us to plan.
Thank you very much, Simona.
Well, as I said, we started the whole candidacy process at the beginning of the pandemic. So we knew from the very start that the pandemic has to be reflected in the bid book, and that the jury is going to ask questions like how did it affect the whole program and the cultural strategy, and how you see the cultural world after this whole thing ends, but you don't know if it's going to come back in some form of the other. So yeah, so I think most of a lot of the concepts that we have in our culture program are about working with unusual spaces, bringing, as Simona said, bringing culture to the people, to the front yards, to housing estates. So working with public space. And I don't think that we have a lot of digital programs. So like 60% of our programs have some sort of digital component. And there are several, I think, probably 4 or 5 projects that are purely digital. Mm-hmm. So this is how it's mostly reflected in our bid book. And we are, of course, the topics that the COVID raised, the isolation, for example. So we are of course working a lot with what's happening around us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot.
Well, I think I've got very little to add to what my colleagues have said, really, other than, I suppose, that my observations from my home city are that people have done, whether it's people in shops or people who are doing events or whatever, or people who've been successful in getting through and maybe flourishing even hopefully post-COVID, certainly next year, but as Marin said, we don't know whether we're going to live with it, are those people who've been very creative in the way that they've applied themselves. And I suppose that's, you can see it from what Simona said and what Marin said. They've been very creative in looking at the mix between digital and live content. And I suppose the other thing is people are very, very keen to go live again and to get live content, but they're also, particularly older people who are a bit more worried about COVID, are also wary, and we need to be aware of that and find ways to make it safe. But I haven't really got so much to add to what those guys have said very well themselves.
Thank you very much. Okay. What about you? Nothing?
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I will
because
ask.
I think we are getting fewer and fewer people, and it's getting late. So
Yeah,
please.
of course.
Dobrý deň, Jure Augustín. Ja budem hovoriť po slovensky, ak je to v pohode.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, he will speak in Slovakia and we will translate it.
Ja sa chcem opýtať, neviem úplne ako formulovať tú otázku, pretože neviem, aká je úplne situácia v iných krajinách, ale viem, že na Slovensku je to podobné. A to je, chcem sa opýtať, či videli nejakú špecifikáciu v komunikácii alebo v práci. V Brne sa hovorí zřizovaného alebo nezřizovaného sektoru, a prípadne s individuálnymi jednotlivcami, ktoré prichádzali s projektami alebo s nápadami.
A otázka míří na koho?
Na všechny,
Na všechny.
jenom nevím, jak je to v Německu, v Litve, ve Velké Británii, či vůbec existuje něco jako zřizovaný, nezřizovaný sektor. Vím, že na Slovensku to je v podstatě zrkadlovo, pravděpodobně nějaká obdoba tam bude.
Super, děkuju.
Děkujem.
Já jenom poprosím o Neil, if you can ask first the question and we will translate to you as well. I've got no idea, jak to říct zřizovaný a nezřizovatelný prostor. Je sluchátka, jestli můžu? Official and unofficial space? Public and, okay. To jste mi pomohl, děkuju. Okay, so maybe if you can repeat, we will repeat the question. I will try somehow. So, how it looks, the communication, if I am right. I don't know, pardon, já nevím, jestli jsem jenom pochytila tu otázku, byla docela dlouhá. Tak,
Jo, asi není úplně dlouhá, jenom jestli viděli v té práci specifiku ohledom, či je nějaký rozdíl zřizovaný nebo nezřizovaný sektor v té komunikaci v přípravě kandidatury.
komunikaci
Okay, so the question is like if there was any difference between communicating with the official institutions and and the unofficial culture, like the independent one. Yeah, a big one.
Okay,
There was a big one.
Thank you.
I come from the independent culture, and and as you know that it depends on the people, but at least where I come from, the people from independent culture are much more flexible, time-wise, of course, and often they are used to think outside the boxes. They are not. Usually, I don't want to create any stereotypes, but they are not as stubborn as the ones from the institutions, and the discussions are much more on. It's easier to get on the same level. When you come to a person from an institution, what often happens is that they come to you, or maybe it's my age. I don't know. Maybe that's what happened. But they were often. It took time, to get on the same level and to have a conversation, a fruitful one, not a one where they would just state their problems and ask me to solve them. I wasn't there for that, so yeah. But there was a big difference, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I cannot tell about bidding time, but I can tell about time when we won. Actually, we did open call for every institution. It doesn't matter it's official one or it's not official. And the open call was for everyone to create the program of European Capital of Culture. So we didn't separate them. Maybe you could add some more. I think you know a lot about Kumst.
Well, I think Marian really summed it up superbly well. The only thing I would say is that it's more difficult sometimes for the institutions because you have your permanent collection in the museums, you have your regular program in the theatre. But I think there is still an opportunity to get involved in the program, to think about who your dream exhibition would be, who the great concert's going to be in 2028 and so on. And the legacy of your European Capital of Culture year, as well as, I think, the win-win situation is making sure that your independent scene is stronger, better funded, more international, which is exactly what's happening in Kaunas. But at the same time, that the existing organisations, the main cultural organisations, are themselves exactly the same, more ambitious, have better programming, and throw themselves behind the year because, the 2028 Symphony Orchestra program in Brno should be still there, but even better than in 2022 or 2023, I think.
Okay, thank you. Nadia, anything want to add?
Any more questions?
You take my role, that's great.
Sorry, darling.
I think you've got question? No. Any other question? Slido is silent as well. Yeah, we've got more
I put a
questions
question on
right now.
Slido, but it didn't went through, so I have to repeat it. The question is, what were the main objection or the typical objection you have to face in your city, and how you negotiate them, or how you manage the people who were against the whole project?
You ask anybody or?
Everybody, of course. Any advice is helpful.
Of course, I guess it's of course it's money. If that's where the money for culture should go. Like that's one thing, and you have to explain that it's not helicopter money. You know, that for example, people from the independent sector, what happens is that they're often afraid of the project or very of the project because they feel that it's not, you know, going upside down, you know, from the bottom, but it's coming from the top. And people from the independent sector, we believe that people should deserve what they get. And so you have to explain this to them. So it's mostly finances. That's at least that was the problem in Nitra, or how it was implemented. If for example, if their capacity is going to be enough to help us with the project. So yeah, but it's mostly money.
How do you see it?
The same in Kaunas. Mine is a problem. As I work in community program, we also can see how, of course, not all the communities are in the project. Some of them are like close, but they are not participating in this. And yeah, they are sometimes angry. Let's say that we have money, they don't have such a fundings, and it's a really big problem. So in this case, it's really important to be open and invite all these angry organizations to be part of it and to discuss, as I know from Leeuwarden, they always say coffee, 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 and meetings, 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 and then this when you have this personal contact, everything becomes better. What else? Sometimes we meet, as I present to you our mythical-based program. Sometimes some of the people do not accept it. Why this legend? Why this beast? Why it looks like this? But like no, the art is different thing. Everyone understands differently, and yeah. As a beauty, you know, it doesn't. One understands in one way, and another understands in other way. So, yeah, this. Yeah, I would say these two. Now I have in mind only these two things.
I suppose the one thing, whether it's in the bidding process or in the transition from bid to delivery, which is even more hard sometimes, is to try and keep control of the story that's emerging. And I don't mean control in a narrow sense, but make sure that your story is the positive one that's being told, having good reason for why we're bidding, have a good sense of what the outcomes are and some examples of the cities that have benefited. But you, of course, realize that you won't convince absolutely everybody, but you're absolutely right. Coffee, consultation, beer works as well, probably even better in this city. But, you know, that whole process of involvement and so on is a really important one, but you can't convince everybody. I do remember at the end of Liverpool's 2008 year, and I was also sort of heading up the international side of things, we were handing over to Vilnius and to Linz at the end of the year. And I had the mayor of Vilnius in the office, and I was talking about Liverpool 2008, and we were just about to get into a lift, and there was some woman worked for the city council, obviously had something to do with European capital of culture, and she just turned to us and she said, I still think it was a waste of money. And so I thought, well, you know, you can't convince everybody. Well, we had the Beatles, we had a giant spider, we had this, that, and the other, but you still think it was a waste of money. So you can't convince everybody. But if you control, you know, positively the story that's emerging and why we're bidding, why, you know, what we're going to achieve, you'll create more positivity than you will negativity, I'm sure.
Thank you very much. Nadia, please, we want to hear your opinion.
Yes. I would like to draw your attention to the fact that there is a big difference between bidding and implementing. So now we have talked a lot about bidding, but we have also heard something about implementing from Simona mainly. So this is a big topic. Objections change from the bidding phase to the implementation phase. In the bidding phase, the main objections are often what we heard today also, the worries of you all that you pronounced. And of course, what Simona alluded to, not every story is for everyone, or not everyone agrees with the way you approach your bidding, for example. Yeah? We had an example in Bulgaria, in Plovdiv, our famous example. They have a very big Roma community in an area which one can call a ghetto. I think you know about ghettos here as well. I heard something about that. Anyway, this team did not want to include, or let's say they had to be a little bit nudged, and here comes our role as nudgers, nudged into this direction of seeing the problem, of accepting the problem, and to say, yes, it could be turned into a big part of our story. And the point that I'm making here is, in the bidding, you are trying to win, and the winning comes from 12 people. So you have this committee, this jury, 10 mixed international ones, and 2 representatives which will be chosen by your Ministry of Culture, someone from the Czech Republic. So 12 people that you actually have to convince. And perhaps the story that you tell these 12 people has a different, let's say, how do I say this without being too political? You have to convince these 12 people and have to go into a direction that they can somehow understand also, yeah? Because not every Czech story that you want to tell a person from Portugal is going to arrive in the right part of the brain. So you have to find the authentic, good story for yourselves. Maybe some people in your city will object to this story that you're telling the jury. But when you're implementing, you also open up the field more. It's not concentrated so much. Now you have to have 60 pages for this first round, 60 pages in the bid book. How can you tell Brno on 60 pages? It's impossible, right? So you have to select, you have to be very narrow for the bidding phase, whereas in the implementation you go broad. Isn't that your experience as well?
I'd like to add, and what's important to mention that in first years we got a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of negative organizations, communities, and many angry people. And time by time, when people has start to believe in this project, and only now, when it's 3 months till our title year, we can really feel that they are with us, and we are not bad to the city, and we are not egoists or something like only now. So they have to start to believe in you, and time by time organizations joins you. So it's a process, I think.
Mm-hmm. Thanks a lot. So we've got one more question here. Maybe, Simona, you can actually keep the microphone, because I will ask you what was the main reason why your city won. What do you think? What was the main reason why your city won?
I think the team, they really believed in our program. It was authentic. It was created for the city. Our program really solves our cultural problems of the city. And yeah, people, this initiative team, I think, was the main thing why we are, I think, strong now.
Okay, thanks a lot. Maybe if you can pass the microphone to Marianne. Here's a question for you. Why do you believe you should win?
Yeah, I'm going to repeat the same thing, people. Yeah, it's the people behind the project, you know, all all the core team and the hundreds people from the city, from the region. You know, it's a bunch of crazy, dedicated people who really want to make their city and their region a better place to live. So I think that's the reason why we're gonna get it, and I think that our story is a really good story that tackles the most pressing challenges that the city and the region face. I think that we are telling a really organic story that stems from Nitra but speaks about European issues. That was, you know, I made a rule. Actually, I don't really like rules, but I made a rule, like when someone approached with the concept or with the project, I always wanted them to answer one question, like why Nitra and why Europe? Like why does this project has to happen in this city and not in, I don't know, somewhere in Luxembourg or Denmark? Like why here? What does it, like where's the connection? And I think that the program itself, not the whole bit book as well, but when you read the program, and you don't have to know anything about the city, but when you read our program as it's in the final bit book, you will know a lot about Nitra and the region.
Thanks a lot to both of you. Do we have any other questions? I think that we've got actually. No, we don't. So maybe last words from your side, if you can just wish something to Brno or some motivational speech, like never give up or sky is the limit or something, something like that.
Funnily enough, when I was listening to the debate before, I wrote 3 things down. Win the bid, or at least if you don't win the bid, have a really good plan B and deliver all of the positivity that you get from the bidding process. Number 2, if you win the bid, don't mess it up, or at least don't totally mess it up, because we always mess it up a little bit, but the final year is fantastic, whatever happens. And then 3 is capture, you know, like these guys are thinking about in Kaunas, capture all your best work in the year itself, if you get that far, the people, you know, the structures and so on, and keep them going, because you can still keep things going long after the year. So those three things.
Thanks a lot.
From everyone?
Yeah, from everyone.
From everyone.
You cannot run away.
Trust. I recommend to trust each other, the team. I really cannot say any more. It's really about trust, because, as Simona said, it's a process. It doesn't build itself from now to next year. It takes long. And I think the more one trusts, and the more one can do together and achieve. So,
Thank you very much.
I suggest you not to concentrate all negative thoughts, because the process is really hard. You need a lot of energy to this, and all the negative thoughts really takes a lot of your energy. So just try to concentrate on why you're doing this, and just enjoy. Just enjoy, because it's really, and believe that it's important to the city. That's the most important thing. Just because this project really has a purpose. When, as I mentioned, I work with communities, and they really see how all the grandmas finds their friends, they are not lonely, or like children get to know each other, get to know their neighbors, they feel safer, and this is really strong, and it's life-changing thing. So do not think all that it's real, that it has to be big change, but these small changes are so important. And yeah, just see it, not concentrate only on buhalteric, I don't know, all the paper things. Just believe in this, that it's life-changing.
Thank you very much, Simona.
Yeah, it's tough after these 3 guys. But Yeah, I think that one of the most important things in life in general is, to ask questions. So use this as a platform to look, to look for answers. I think that's a good thing about ECOG, about the bidding process. So many people, so many heads together, so many brains, looking for answers, and the answers are gonna stay, even if you don't win.
So thanks a lot to all of you. I actually feel very motivated. So please, hands up for these awesome people here. Thanks a lot that you were part of this meeting. Thank you. Thank you. And we've got one more presentation? No. Okay, so we don't have. Okay. I'm sorry, I have to switch into Czech again. But I will tell you during the wine there, what I actually was talking about here, right? Okay. Tak, měli jsme mít ještě poslední prezentaci od Světlany, která je z města Plovdiv, které v roce 2019 bylo Evropským hlavním městem kultury, ale tak už bychom tak jako si spíš mohli říct, že to byl super den a že vám moc krát děkujeme, že jste tady s náma byli. Veškeré prezentace, včetně Světlany, dopolední, odpolední, celý tenhle streaming, pocitové mapy, prostě všechno, co jsme dneska zmínili, najdete na webu kultura.brno.cz a já vám moc krát děkuju, že jste tady s náma dneska byli, že fandíte Brnu, fandíte kultuře, nevzdávejme to, je to dobrý, má to smysl, i když to občas bude náročný. Užijte si ještě neoficiální část večera, teď už je to jenom o povídání, popíjení a zábavě. Díky moc krát všem.